The situation on the battlefield is changing rapidly once again. In a development drawing increasing attention, Ukrainian forces have launched a surprise attack against Russian-held positions. The operation has placed additional pressure on Russian troops, forcing them to respond to a rapidly changing tactical situation. But what exactly is happening on the front line? Why is this surprise attack important? And how much impact could it have on Russian positions? In this video, we'll break down the situation step by step, from the opening attack and Russia's response to the possible consequences for the next phase of the fighting. The attack began as Ukrainian units moved to put pressure on Russian positions. In a situation like this, the element of surprise can be critical. Defending forces must quickly identify the direction of the attack, estimate the strength of the opposing force, and decide whether to hold their positions or make tactical adjustments. The pressure increased as the Ukrainian assault forced Russian troops to respond within a short period of time. However, a surprise attack does not automatically guarantee a major breakthrough. The final outcome depends on the terrain, the readiness of defensive positions, artillery support, drone operations, communications, and the ability of both sides to hold their ground.
Наші відходять з позиції до нас, акуратно!
Що таке? То нічого, все нормально. Нормально?
З 9 години, блядь, сука, їбашить. Прямо в двері, блядь.
As the attack developed, attention shifted toward Russia's defensive positions. Pressure in one area can affect the situation across nearby sectors. If a unit is forced to redirect its attention and resources to counter an attack, other parts of the defensive line may also be affected. For Russia, the challenge is preventing the pressure from developing into a broader disruption of its defensive positions. Every move has to be carefully calculated. Pulling back too quickly could create an opening for the opposing force, while holding a heavily pressured position for too long could increase the risk of losing personnel and equipment. On the modern battlefield, information can be just as important as firepower. Drones are used to monitor troop movements, identify defensive positions, and help determine which areas should become priority targets. For both sides, the ability to understand what is happening several kilometers ahead can influence decisions within minutes. That is why, as Ukraine launches a surprise attack, its ability to maintain the element of surprise becomes extremely important. At the same time, Russian forces are also using reconnaissance capabilities to identify the direction of Ukrainian movements and adjust their defenses.
Макар, братан, объясни, куда мне ебашить?
Оця червона будівля шифру.
Да.
Да.
Ебашить?
Ну там підери, блядь.
Сколько?
Не знаю, ну да хуй. Туди, куди термобаром тим їбашили.
Ага. Давай я еще раз.
Червоний ангар, шифр, надо 10 година від ракет. Плюс, прийняв.
As the pressure begins to build, Russian forces are faced with critical decisions. Their response could involve reinforcing defensive positions, using artillery, redeploying units, or attempting to stop Ukrainian forces before they reach more strategically important areas. This is where the battle becomes a race to make decisions faster than the enemy. Ukraine is attempting to maintain the momentum of its attack, while Russia is working to slow down or stop the advance. If Russian forces can regain control of the situation, the Ukrainian attack could lose momentum. But if the pressure continues to increase, Russian defensive positions could face more serious challenges.
Тихо, аккуратно. Граната!
The value of an attack is not always measured by how much territory is captured. Sometimes the objective is to force the enemy to move troops, consume ammunition, expose weaknesses in defensive lines, or disrupt logistical routes. If the Ukrainian attack succeeds in forcing Russia to change the deployment of its forces, the effects could extend far beyond the immediate area of fighting. But once again, it would be too early to conclude that a single attack automatically changes the overall balance of the war. The battlefield is far more complex than simply determining who is advancing and who is retreating.
І то спасибо, скажи, заїбав.
А я бачу, ти Гаррі Поттер, он лоба роздер, блядь.
Это, мол, дар молнии заїбав. Self.
Heavy pressure on a position does not always end with a quick victory. Defending forces can still regroup, receive reinforcements, and attempt to retake lost positions. That makes the next developments especially important. Can Ukraine maintain the momentum of its attack? Can Russia deploy additional forces and stabilize its defensive line? Or could this operation become part of a much larger offensive effort? Those questions can only be answered by watching how the situation develops on the ground.
Будешь?
Да, конечно.
Держи.
Сегодня моя позиция курятник.
Да похуй, блядь. Главное, что не параша.
Согласен.
Ще троєн. Йду по провізію, пацани. Закину вам, щоб пахали і попить.
A surprise attack like this can have wider consequences for the entire front line. When one side increases its activity in a particular sector, the opposing force must also consider the possibility of follow-up attacks or operations designed to divert attention. That makes every movement increasingly important. For Ukraine, maintaining momentum could become a major challenge. For Russia, absorbing the pressure without creating new vulnerabilities presents another serious problem. Under these conditions, the situation on the battlefield can change several times in a single day. Several developments will determine whether this attack produces a meaningful tactical advantage for Ukraine. First, can Ukrainian forces hold the positions they managed to reach? Second, can Russia send reinforcements and stop the pressure from increasing? Third, could the activity in this sector develop into a larger military operation? And just as importantly, there is the logistical situation facing both sides. Sustaining an offensive requires a continuous flow of supplies, ammunition, communications, and coordination. Ukraine's surprise attack once again demonstrates how quickly the situation on the battlefield can change. Russian positions are now under pressure, but the final outcome of the fighting cannot be determined based only on the initial developments. The key question will be whether Ukraine can maintain the momentum of its attack and whether Russia can stabilize its defenses. One thing is clear, even a small change along the front line can trigger a new response from both sides. And as the pressure increases, the decisions made over the next several hours could become far more important than the events that triggered the battle in the first place. If new developments emerge, the direction of this battle will become even more important to watch.
Даже хвогов накидывай!